What's good? Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Green Room with Danny Green. I'm Harrison Sanford. And in actuality, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you kind of know how we get down during the playoffs. DG does not do podcasts while we're in the middle of a series. Best believe once the Cavaliers and Knicks series wraps up, we will definitely get back on the microphone and talk about everything that happened in the Cavaliers series versus the New York Knicks. But I'm in New York now, and I went to both games, Game 3 and Game 4 in Madison Square Garden. And let me just basically say what maybe a lot of people have thought so far with this series. Unfortunately, I think for Danny and the Cavaliers, I think it's going to be over. More than likely, I predict it'll be over in 6. Now, going into the series, I thought it was pretty much even, and I thought the advantages would be potentially in the experience with the head coaching staff with the New York Knicks, particularly obviously Tom Thibodeau, but I also couldn't deny the fact that the Cavaliers had home court advantage. Stealing Game 1 with the New York Knicks, stealing that from the Cavaliers, I think was everything in this series. And so now the Cavaliers walls are back her against the walls. Okay. The Cavaliers' backs are against the walls. So the question is, what can they do to potentially get Game 5 and put all the pressure for the New York Knicks in Game number 6, which could be Friday night in Madison Square Garden. So I think the biggest thing, and obviously the biggest shift from how the Cavaliers operated all year long, is Isaac Okoro. Went from a starter to back end of the rotation to now kind of in the rotation, first man off the bench. I'm not really too sure what the plan is for Game number 5, but this is a problem that the Cavaliers, I think they knew it would present itself going into the playoffs. Because even though Isaac Okoro had a decent three-point shooting rate this year, I think we all saw and knew a lot of his shots were open. And it's just, playoffs are a different beast for any player, any team. And I think for him and for a lot of the Cavs shooters or Cavs other role players, it is showing itself. All right, so right now, Isaac Okoro is averaging 5.5 points, 20% from the three-point line, 113 defensive rating. And I think that's part of the issue here. If Isaac Okoro was providing elite-level, game-changing like defense, I think you take the sacrifices with the gravity he does not give you out there on the court. But so far, at least as it pertains to defensive rating, he hasn't been that great defensively as well. And I think if you look back at Game number 4, I'm gonna be interested to see what JB Bickerstaff and the staff want to do with Jalen Brunson. And it's evident to me the best defender for him is Isaac Okoro. Now, what we saw in Game number 4, a lot of guard-to-guard pick and rolls, trying to force the switch. Or at least that's what the Knicks were trying to do. But sometimes the Cavs wouldn't switch. Majority of the time, they were trapping. And when you trap, you give other opportunities to like a guy like R.J. Barrett, Josh Hart. Number of times R.J. Barrett had a half a step against his defender. A half a step is all most quality NBA players need to get busy. And that's exactly what happened in Game number 4. If I go ahead and look at this box score, I mean, hard to believe R.J. Barrett got to the free throw line 13 times. 13 times. That just cannot happen, particularly when you've already done a great job taking Julius Randle out the series. If you cut the water off on everybody else, I mean, Jalen Brunson was great for sure, and a lot of people are saying he's the best player in the series. I think circumstances have helped him be that. But is Jalen Brunson going to drop 56 like Jimmy Butler did Monday night? I'm going to be interested to see. No more trapping on Jalen Brunson potentially, and let him go to work. If he's going to give Donovan Mitchell the business, or if he's going to give Isaac Okoro the business, Karis LeVert, so be it. But when you start trapping and letting other players go off, I think they're in a big world of trouble there. So looking forward to see what that adjustment is, and particularly with Isaac Okoro. I think when we had Donovan Mitchell on the show, we mentioned how important the development of Evan Mobley's three-point shot is going to be. I think it's 3 times more important for Isaac Okoro, because if you're going to live with the Mobley and Jared Allen front court, you're going to need everybody else on that court to be a shooter. And so, look at the NBA right now. There's not I don't know any other team that really has 2 other bigs in their starting lineup that don't have stretch ability. So even the Golden State Warriors, who have Draymond Green and Kevon Looney in their starting lineup, they do have Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, two of the best shooters of all time, and a complex offense that's not predicated on the pick and roll, much like the Cavaliers is. So it's going to, I have one train of thought that basically says, hey, put Isaac Okoro in that fire, let him fail potentially, and it only make him better for it in the offseason. If they want to stick to if the Cavs are really thinking about the trajectory of this team, then maybe that's what you do and you live with the results, even though it might be a loss. Or maybe you get creative and maybe you just lean heavy on the offense and say, hey, we're going to try and outscore you guys. We've already done a good job, relatively good job defensively, but we need to score buckets. There is an advantage for the Cavaliers potentially going all offense and basically putting out better shooting lineups if they want to potentially guard in the half court more, because all of these missed shots are giving the Knicks fast break opportunities. Let's look at the Game 4 scoreboard here, or at least the box score. If I look at the fast break points in general, Knicks only got 10, but they did get a number of points here off of turnovers. So again, for the most part, I think the Cavaliers are in a really tough spot. But at the end of the day, I think you have to allow Jalen Brunson to beat you. Trying to take the ball out of his hand is empowering the others, and you can't have Brunson still going off and the others giving you the business too. That's just not going to work. But what might even be more important than that, that's more of a long-term issue. Isaac Okoro and Evan Mobley's ability to shoot. That's going to be the summer project. If I was Kobe Altman, the general manager, I would be locking these guys in the gym all summer. Let them see their failures on the big screen and let them address it during the offseason. The future is still very much bright for the team, but this is, as of right now, it is coming across like a very humbling series. With that being said, something that needs to get fixed, quick, fast, and in a hurry for the Cavaliers, they got to grab rebounds. I mean, when you decide to have Evan Mobley and Jared Allen as in your starting lineup, when you decide to play two bigs, you play two bigs for the advantage of things like rebounding. And that is not what they've been able to do. Mitchell Robinson has been playing on the same level, if not better, than Jared Allen so far in this series. Mitchell Robinson had a double-double the last game. Him and Obi Toppin combined for 12 offensive rebounds in the last game. Cavaliers simply can't let that happen. Point blank, period. And I do think when we look at game number 5 going down on Wednesday, I do think the Cavaliers will compete on the boards, maybe win the rebounding battle, because you cannot, you can't measure desperation. And obviously, I think the Cavaliers will be the desperate team on Wednesday. Back with the home court should give them some extra gusto there to get those boards and make that happen. But that needs to be cleaned up quick, fast, and in a hurry. We talked about it going into the series, how great the Knicks were at second chance points, how great the Cavaliers were on points off turnovers. Well, the Cavaliers are not turning the Knicks over, and the Cavaliers are allowing the Knicks to get second chance points. You're not going to win this series that way. I expect them to be better in Game 5. They need to be better in Game 5, and it's a real look in the mirror moment for Mobley and Allen as it pertains to that, because the team has invested in a too big front court because they thought they could dominate categories of the game like rebounding, and they're not. Just not going to work. With that being said, again, I still think the opportunity is still there, because you get Game 5 at home. Then the pressure is on the Knicks in Game 6, and if you bring it back to Game 7, it's a toss-up. It's a pick-up at that point. So, and the Cavaliers will have the momentum. So they got to snatch up game number 5. One reason why they have a good chance of winning game number 5, outside of the desperation factor, Julius Randle is nowhere to be seen in this series so far. And with his ankle combined with the defense of Evan Mobley, he's just not there. After game 4, didn't talk to the media. That's not a good look. You guys, the Knicks won the game. You should be talking to the media. Regardless of how poorly you played or not, you should be talking after the game. But he didn't. Either way, what they're doing to Julius Randle right now in this 2023 NBA playoffs are pretty impressive, to say the least. Let's see here. Julius Randle, I believe, shooting under 30% from the three-point line. Yeah, here we go. 25% from the three-point line, averaging 14.7 rebounds. This is not anywhere near what Julius Randle was during the regular season for the New York Knicks. Some of it, again, could probably be attributed to the ankle. Some of it has to be attributed to Evan Mobley as well. So you got to give kudos to him there. But the job has to continue to be done, because if Randle has one of those games, I don't see how the Cavaliers are going to win that particular game, because Brunson's already doing his thing. So Evan Mobley has to continue to lock up defensively, and he has to 100% has to crash the offensive rebounds. So, we'll see how it plays out in game number 5. If the series ends up being over, I'm sure Danny and I will be recording shortly thereafter. If it ends up going to game number 6 in New York on Friday, then more than likely Danny and I will be recording probably Sunday night. So we'll see how it goes. Hey, maybe it goes to 7. All things are still relatively on the table. I think the more shocking thing, even if you look at this series, is who the winner of this series could potentially be playing. And it was all assumed that it was going to be the Milwaukee Bucks. Oh, they got Giannis. They've won a title before. Jrue Holiday, Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton, XYZ. Doesn't matter, at least right now. 3-1 Miami Heat, courtesy of a Jimmy Butler masterpiece. Absolute masterclass. Elite showing of Jimmy Butler, playoff Jimmy, in game number 4. 56 points. Straight up went off and helped the Heat overcome a lead late towards the end of the game. And I'll tell you this, as much as maybe Knicks fans are excited about the potential of playing the Heat, or Cavalier fans, if they get past the Knicks, of playing the Heat as opposed to the Bucks, I would be optimistic too, but I would say might have to go tame the expectations a little bit. What the Miami Heat are doing right now is truly remarkable. I've made a habit over the past month and a half or so, pointing out how bad the Miami Heat were offensively. They're the only team in the NBA, and I think I even mentioned this to Donovan and Danny when we had them when they were on the show. The Miami Heat are the only team in the NBA who averaged under 110 points in the NBA. Literally. The Spurs scored more. The Pistons scored more. The Hornets scored more. The Rockets scored more. This was the worst offense in the NBA for the season. And now you look at the playoffs, and I couldn't believe it when I saw it. They are averaging 123 points per game, which is number 1 in the playoffs. More points than the Kings, more points than the Warriors. And Jimmy Butler is averaging 36.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, 5 assists, 62% from the field, y'all. 62% from the field, 52% from 3. 9 for 17 in the series so far from the three-point line. You got to give him all the kudos in the world for putting on that effort, especially with no Tyler Hero, especially now with Victor Oladipo out, and Kyle Lowry not being Kyle Lowry, and Bam Adebayo having his own issues trying to score over the likes of Brook Lopez and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Jimmy's just spectacular. Big props to Eric Spoelstra for reinvigorating this offense, finding things that work, and making it happen. With that being said, now the Bucks are now an underdog to win the series. I might fall on the sword on this one, but I would still be betting the Milwaukee Bucks to win this series. Right now they're plus 130 to get it done. This is an interesting thing because in similar situation for the Cavaliers, it's totally different when you're the home team down 3-1. Because you get the home game in game number 5, you win game number 5, then all of the pressure is going to be on Miami to win in Miami in game number 6. And if they don't, then they got to go back to Milwaukee and hope to get another spectacular, one-of-a-kind performance from Jimmy Butler or maybe somebody else on the roster. So I still think the Bucks are very much alive and kicking, but the winner of the Knicks and Bucks series, particularly if it's the Knicks, obviously, because they've already won 3 games, the advantage that they would get from a rest perspective, a game planning perspective, is humongous and cannot be ignored. So we'll continue to watch. We'll continue to see what happens here. But what a job by Jimmy. And as we look forward to Wednesday night, Bucks and Miami Heat. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Giannis is on the brink of elimination in the first round. And I get he really didn't play up until game number 4. I think a lot of people still thought this Bucks team was way more talented to have a showing like that. But that's the situation that they're in right now. And we'll have to see what happens there. Also happening Wednesday night, the Memphis Grizzlies back in action against the Los Angeles Lakers. And props to LeBron. What a showing from him on Monday night. 21, 20, 7, 1 turnover. Spectacular. And this is with Anthony Davis not having a good game. This is with D'Angelo Russell making timely shots. This is with Austin Reeves having a couple key buckets down the stretch and fighting against foul trouble. It's going to be hard for these Memphis Grizzlies to come back and get a dub. But I will say this, the one thing I don't like, after their game 4 loss, Ja Morant and Dillon Brooks decided not to talk to the media. That's why this is a bad look, because you guys, the Memphis Grizzlies, have made a habit of talking on camera before games, before series, before the playoffs start, before the season starts, chirping about how good you are. And karma's come back and hit them. No Brandon Clark, no Steven Adams. We can't ignore that. But at the end of the day, you got to face the music. If you were bold enough to say things when there was no score being kept, keep that same energy. I'm not against the Grizzlies. I like it. I love when they talk. It's good for me, and if we're keeping it all real, we all like it when people talk. You might not like the actual person doing the talking, but it does give you a level of intrigue. It gives you a team to root for or to root against, or just excitement to watch a competitive matchup. So I don't want them to stop. I just want them to keep it going when things are against them, because now you're looking like frauds. And now, then you'll start losing respect of people. If you want to still get on the microphone and say, hey, we lost or we still believe we could win, do your thing. I'm for that. But to just run from the microphone, not a good look. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. So pretty much that's where we sit right now in the NBA playoffs. Oh, yeah, I'm bugging. The Golden State Warriors and the Sacramento Kings also play on Wednesday night as well. Wednesday's going to be huge in the NBA. The disappointing thing when you look at this series now, De'Aaron Fox has the fractured index finger on his shooting hand. That just sucks. And that's unfortunately a storyline for these NBA playoffs. I don't know if they can get the job done without him being on full tilt. I imagine the Warriors have all the confidence in the world now after winning back-to-back games at home. It's a 3-game series now, and the Kings' best player, the most clutch player in the NBA, is not going to be at full strength. And one of the things that he needs to do, shoot the ball, feels like it's going to be very much so hampered. So you might get a Warriors-Lakers series in the second round. And that'll be fun. The last thing, too, other side of the Eastern bracket, one would assume the Celtics get the job done, not just against the Hawks, but against the Sixers as well. I am disappointed for any Sixer fan because Joel Embiid and his history of injuries, particularly in the playoffs, is disheartening. Last year was the orbital fracture in the hand. The year before that, it was the hyperextended knee. The year before that, it was the stomach virus and another knee ailment, I believe it was, when they took on the Raptors. You go back to 2018, he had another orbital fracture. And this year is believed that he has another knee issue. Doc Rivers saying he's going to be under 50% or assumed he would be. There's been a report that came out on Tuesday from John Clark of NBC Sports that he's going to have to wear a brace on that knee. I believe Ramona Shelburne said something along the lines of an ACL sprain. Just rinse and repeat with this guy, unfortunately. So yeah, with Joel Embiid sprained right knee, which I believe Doc Rivers had said they won't have any further word on him until a couple more days later in the week. I'm just worried about their ability to beat the Boston Celtics with him not being 100%. We've seen it so far in his history with the 76ers. It's not just the injuries, it's the impact that it has with his exuberance and his mentality on the court. And As somebody who's watched the Sixers for 2 straight years, almost every game, his lack of enthusiasm in times when he has been injured does have a trickle-down effect, point blank period. And for him not to be 100% going against Al Horford and potentially Robert Williams, not going to be a good look for the 76ers. And I don't think it helps either that we've had leaks about James Harden going to the Houston Rockets from the regular season, and we've even got another report from Adrian Wojnarowski as the first round started. So calls for concern for Philadelphia, calls for concern for the Sacramento Kings, calls for concern for the Memphis Grizzlies, calls for concern for the Cleveland Cavaliers. But all things can shift with one win. We'll see how it plays out. We'll come back next week with my guy DG. We'll really chop it up. Maybe get into more X's and O's and really break down what we've seen, what we predict will happen as the playoffs continue. Do us a favor while you're here. Give us a 5-star rating, please. Subscribe, rate, and review. You know what to do. See you guys next week. Thank you.